Okay, well, it's time now to check in on how the business is doing around the world. Brian Quinn is with me in studio. Brian, going to start looking at the US, where we're waiting for that announcement due today on the new chair of the US Federal Reserve.
That's right. Donald Trump expected to reveal his nominee Thursday. Multiple sources, including Reuters and the Wall Street Journal, are reporting that he's settled on Jerome Powell. Powell's been a front-runner for the post since speculation began that Trump would replace current chair Janet Yellen as her four-year term comes to an end in February. 64-year-old Powell already sits on the Fed's Board of Governors, overseeing Wall Street regulations for the central bank. He's been a reliable Yellen ally on the Fed board, and he's widely expected to continue her relatively low interest rate policies. He is, however, likely to take a softer stance on financial regulation.
Now, Powell would have to be confirmed by the Senate before he would take over as chair. Assuming that all goes to plan, he'll be replacing the Fed's first ever female governor. How did she get on?
That's right. Janet Yellen's term is largely seen as a success, with the U.S. economy solidifying its recovery over the 4 years since she took the reins. Today, economic growth in the U.S. stands at 3%, with unemployment at its lowest rate since 2001. Allison Sargent takes a look back.
One of the first to predict the 2008 global financial crisis, a foresight touted by Barack Obama when he nominated her to head the U.S. Federal Reserve 4 years ago.
You know, Janet is renowned for her good judgment. She sounded the alarm early about the housing bubble, about excesses in the financial sector, and about the risks of a major recession.
It was 2013 and the U.S. economy was on the road to recovery, but it wasn't all the way there yet. Yellen took on the delicate task of reining in U.S. monetary policy without plunging the country back into a recession.
I consider it imperative that we do what we can to promote a very strong recovery.
In December of 2015, with unemployment back down to around 5%, Yellen decided the time had come to tighten the screws, and the Federal Reserve raised its interest rates for the first time in nearly a decade.
Were the FOMC to delay the start of policy normalization for too long, we would likely end up having to tighten policy relatively abruptly at some point to keep the economy from overheating.
Over the past 2 years, the Fed has steadily added 0.25% increases. In October, Yellen began the next phase of normalizing U.S. monetary policy, rolling back the bond buying program put in place by her predecessor Ben Bernanke, a system known as quantitative easing. Critics of the program say it encourages government deficit spending. But Yellen is considered a fiscal dove, with a focus on reducing unemployment, an effort that saw the jobless rate fall to 4.2% in September, the lowest it's been in 16 years.
Okay, let's take a quick look now at how the markets are shaping up.
Well, European markets slightly lower as investors look ahead to expected interest rate hike at the Bank of England later today. London's FTSE 100 and the CAC 40 here in Paris opening nearly flat. The Frankfurt DAX opening down 0.2%. Asian indexes closing mixed. Global investors taking in the U.S. Fed's decision to keep interest rates steady for now. Tokyo's Nikkei adding around 0.5% as Honda shares gained on a sunny profit outlook. Korea's Kospi index down around 0.4%, with tech stocks including Samsung losing ground. Chinese markets off as well. The Shanghai Composite down 0.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng down around 0.2%.
What a great day there. Well, let's focus back here in France for a minute. And legislators are proposing some strict new measures aimed at combating tax fraud.
After cracking down on Social Security and unemployment benefit fraud, the French government is now pushing for harsher penalties on what's known as fiscal fraud. 2 MPs from President Macron's La République En Marche party are drawing up measures to rescind the civil rights of convicted tax dodgers. Julia Kim has this report.
Having a secret offshore bank account, or concealing your identity to defraud the tax office. These practices will soon be punished more severely, as MPs from the governing party, the République En Marche, agree to deny the perpetrators certain civil rights.
This amendment sends a message to all French people that in order to restore trust, each one of us must be exemplary and responsible when it comes to taxes.
Committing felony tax fraud will lead almost automatically to the loss of certain civil rights, including the right to vote, eligibility to run for public office, or to work for the civil service. MPs will also hike up the fine from 2 million to 3 million euros, and increase the maximum prison term from 7 to 8 years. But the opposition says this won't realistically combat tax fraud. Socialist MP Boris Vallaud called the Republic En Marche's measures a gimmick, saying this isn't going to transform them into Robin Hood. While majority MPs don't deny the move is largely symbolic, France sanctions several hundred people every year for felony tax fraud.
Okay, that was thanks very much, Brian Quinn, with that business update. Time for us